Hey there, Meeple Peoples. This is Mark from the Meeple Society, and welcome to our first inaugural episode of Five Things. Here at the Meeple Society, they have a name for me. I am the Grumpy Meeple. And I've
It's
embraced that
true.
for good reason. The very tight knit, tiny, narrow corridor of games that I really, really like. They involve adventures and murders and luck mechanics and deep stories and cohesive themes. And most games that fall off that tightrope get a little good natured ribbing from me and scoffing when I review them. Straight up Euros, pfft. Cute things, pfft. Abstracts, stock market games. Pfft. Let me be honest, I go into all my games with the high expectation of a 9.5 on the BGG scale and watch a lot of them slowly settle into the 6 and 7 range as soon as I open the box. But every so often, there are games that might not quite hit my usual wheelhouse that, for one reason or another, surpass what my original expectation was. And so, this episode, I'm going to shed that Grumpy Meeple thing and give you where I embrace those. So, I give you 5 games that were pleasant surprises to Mark. Number 1, Paperback. We bought Paperback by Tim Fowers Games online, probably at Amazon. After watching a review where it was given pretty reasonably high marks, and then checking out like the BGG ratings of it, and going, yeah, let's try this. So, in a moment of high adrenaline that day, we placed the order. And let me tell you, this kind of speaks to the amount of impact it had on me when we ordered it. 2 days later, when the package arrived, I had completely forgotten we had ordered it. So, we opened it, we took a quick look. And a couple days later, we sat down and played. I could definitely say I had tempered expectations of this game. I mean, it's a card drafting game, which can be kind of hit and miss with me. It's a word game, which some of the times I'm really keen on, and some of the times I'm like, oh no, not so much. So I was expecting maybe something on the okay side, but certainly nothing spectacular. And Paperback just gripped me like a good paperback. It was easy to pick up. It had very smooth gameplay and mechanics. It was fun working your way up the drafting line to get the more like occasional letters, like, the F or the Q, and to try to fit those into words and get more money for it. It probably took less than 3 rounds of it for both me and Jess to be absolutely hooked by it. And I would strongly suggest it to anyone who plays or enjoys word games. It's kind of now one of our warm up and standard filler games, for that matter. As far as any games that aren't part of a series, it is probably one of our most played games too. So that's number 1 on my list, Paperback. You guys play this?
Yeah. Yes, we
This
have.
game
We picked.
this game is
Yep.
awesome.
Yes, it is. You picked this up
Yeah.
though at Goodwill.
I found it at Goodwill.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I'd heard of it, but we'd never played it. But I thought, hey, what the heck? We'll try it for $4. I'll definitely pick it up and try it. And we
Yeah,
really
thoughts
enjoyed it.
Yeah, my thoughts when I first saw it, I was like, "This is like, what is this? Like Scrabble with cards? What?" I mean, but yeah, it was pleasantly surprised. I liked it. We've only played it the one time.
I
or
think we've
maybe
only played it one
played a
time. We
couple
need to break
times.
it back out.
Yeah,
We've been a little
but we
busy playing
enjoyed
other
it.
games. So,
And they just had a Kickstarter.
Kickstarter.
It was supposed to be like for the solo adventure, but
Mhm.
it had a 2-person variants available. So of course
Yep.
we had to
Right. And
we
I
had to
seen
jump
the
in on
pack.
Oh
that.
yeah, definitely.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get the notifications when you guys back things.
Oh yeah, same.
Yep.
Mhm. So
Alrighty.
we've both been busy.
Number 2, the entire tiny epic line, at least what we played so far. So it's apology time here. I owe Gamelin Games a little bit of an apology. So Scott Alms, Gamelin Games, I am terribly sorry. Mea culpa. Please don't block my Twitter handle. All of this dates back to how much I scoffed and held my nose when I first heard about the tiny epic line. Back then, I was so absolutely done with the word epic and the way it was overblown and ham-fisted around by everyone on the internet in kind of what I figure is probably like their faux Spicoli voice. Dude, that was like an epic lunch. Oh, that Star Wars prequel was epic. I just got done with an epic workout. I was so jaded by the term in the first place that I couldn't even really take the game seriously. And then the other operative word on the box is tiny. No, that doesn't work for me. When it comes to board games, I've always been a firm believer in the bigger box, bigger price, bigger enjoyment corollary. The amount you enjoy a game is a direct relation to how much you spent on it and how much space it takes up on your shelf. You can ask Jesse. I almost stroked right out in a puddle of my own drool on the kitchen island when we opened up the Gloomhaven box for the first time.
It's true.
Big difference.
Yep. So no. I figured the Tiny Epic line had nothing for me. Flash forward a little and kind of on a whim, we backed Tiny Epic Dinosaurs because dinosaurs. We tried it out, we puzzled out the rules, and about midway through the first game, I realized I had sold it short. This was actually a pretty good little game. It wasn't trying to be this big, grandiose saga legacy mammoth, but that little box was just absolutely chock full of meeples and cards and player boards, and everything had a really high production quality despite the size, and it didn't take ages to play, or it didn't really hamstring our budget to buy it. And suddenly we noticed that Tiny Epic Pirates was accepting late pledges, and then Tiny Epic Dungeons was on Kickstarter, and some of the older ones have been really well received, and now we kind of have a shelf devoted to Tiny Epic games, and I will admit I have never been happier to be wrong.
Yeah, we have our own shelf.
Yeah.
So the Tiny Epic games don't need to get off of your lawn?
No, they don't need to get off my lawn. Not yet.
I think we have everything but mechs. No, tactics. Tactics is the only one we don't have. And we've backed Dungeons.
We have.
Yeah, we like
I'm excited
them all.
about Dungeons.
Yeah, I'm excited about Dungeons. I like Zombies is a cooperative one. I really like that one. I really like Dinosaurs. I think Galaxies is probably my favorite. So if you guys have not tried Tiny Epic Galaxies, that it is everybody's favorite. Or not
We've got,
but you know what I mean.
Galaxies is currently going through a second printing, and when we placed the order, we placed an order for both Galaxies and the expansion. The expansion has been available and has been sent to us, but we're still kind of on hold on the actual Galaxies game.
On the base game.
It's the deluxe version of the Galaxies game.
Yeah, we
don't know what that means, but apparently it's worth waiting for.
Okay. No, we really like that one. So I really like them. They don't come out nearly as often as they should because they don't command your presence, your attention like some of the bigger boxes do, but I do definitely like them. I will admit we've probably spent way too much money on player boards, on the neoprene mats for everyone that has them.
Yep.
But, whatever. If you're only going to spend $25 to $30 on the game, then you have a little extra money to spend on all the neoprene mats, right?
Right.
So, all righty.
Anyway.
Number 3. Crimes in History, H.H. Holmes Murder Castle. So we walked into this game as a late Kickstarter back, and I'm going to be honest, I wasn't entirely sure what I would think about it, even when we took the plunge. I really do enjoy the theme a lot, and the basic mechanics of the game sounded really decent. But then again, it came from a publisher in Blueprint Gaming Concepts who didn't really have much of a track history. They didn't have, I don't believe they even have any other games under their belt at this point. And as someone who knows the history of the theme, I wasn't sure that the art style that we were being shown was actually going to match the feel of what would be, honestly, kind of a macabre game. I mean, H.H. Holmes is kind of the American Jack the Ripper. So I was figuring something more along the lines of, say, Letters from Whitechapel. How it's got that kind of 19th century sepia kind of horror-ish look. That's more difficult to say than you might actually think. That's sort of the feel that I expected. And the artwork on this, at first at least, looked a little bit on the light side. Then we got the game and we played it, and this game just knocks it out of the park. Murder Castle is another kind of placement game where you're placing tiles as you explore rooms. It manages to keep the theme without turning it extraordinarily dark. It has this really cool follow this mechanic where everyone can choose to enact the same action as the active player, which also helps keep downtime to a minimum so everybody's engaged at the same time. It has a lot of fun tension where you're trying to collect the evidence that will clear you and convict Holmes, and try to stay clear of the inevitable Holmes strike. The production values of the game are great for a first-time design team, and the game itself is a ridiculous amount of fun. I get this wonderful, happy feeling every time I see it on the table. And there's got to at least be some kind of modicum of agreement because BGG rates this one as a solid 7.5. So, again, H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle. You guys have not been lucky. Have you guys been lucky enough to play this with us?
No, we
No,
haven't
this
played
is the
it
one
yet.
we said we need to get with you guys on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this
one
is
looks
a
like a lot of fun.
wonderful game.
I feel like I need to point out that he just said that when he sees this game with tiles that show murder scenes laid out on his table,
He gets all
get
happy.
he
that.
feels happy.
Contented, even.
Maybe we need to come up with a better nickname than Grumpy for him.
If I go
don't know.
missing,
Psychotic Meeple? Is that possible?
psychotic people, yeah. It is a very good game, and the artwork. I think I've said this on a previous episode. The artwork is actually, I feel like it's pretty appropriate. For the timeline, it's got grisly murder scenes, but nothing too explicit, and it's not like overly cartoony either.
Yeah.
It's got a really, I think, a really fitting style.
It hits that fine line better than I thought it would.
Where was this taking place at, though?
Chicago, during the World's Fair.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago during the World's Fair.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But one of the murders is actually local to us, down in Irvington, in fact.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
It took place in Irvington?
It took place in Irvington, yeah. As Holmes was chased out of Chicago, basically, and he ended up taking one of the Pencil children. Pencil being the name of Pintzel is the name of his one of his assistants. He ended up killing his assistant and taking his children. Basically, as he was evading police, he stopped in Indianapolis and actually murdered one of the youngest boy in an area in Irvington.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Did
so
not know that.
that's one of the reasons, just the locality of it. That's one of the reasons that I have actually followed this theme as much as I actually have. We learned about this on what is called a Haunted Irvington tour, and that was one of the things that we learned. And I was like, oh, okay, wow, that's kind of cool. I mean, it's not cool, obviously, but it's
interesting.
It's very interesting in kind of a macabre way that it's happened, that something this big happened this close to home.
Right.
Wow.
So,
yep.
Interesting.
All righty.
So for people who who don't know the Indianapolis area, Irvington is like a suburb of Indianapolis. It used to be its own little town before Indianapolis swallowed it up. So it's kind of like, what would you say, how Arlington is to DC?
Yeah, possibly.
DC
Evanston is to Chicago.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is Evanston still actually
considered pretty close to the inner city, but it's its own little Arlington or Irvington has its own little identity. It is
it was its own little town before Indianapolis grew out that far.
Right. But I'm saying that if you go through Irvington, you can definitely tell you're in a separate part of the city.
Right.
It has its own identity.
Town look good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely it's a very interesting part of the town.
It's a nice little area.
Okay. Number 4, Delve. So let me tell you
Yay.
about Delve. We were just starting into our foray into the life of board games when we found this one at our local con. It's done by Indie Board and Cards. Not exactly what you call your big name, holy cow designer. The art is cute, but it doesn't exactly have this big, grandiose adventure feel. Still, we ordered it online because the theme had just enough of a twist of a theme that I felt like I might be able to give it a try. See, I love fantasy tropes. I love dungeon crawls, and I love humor. And the thing about Delve is, at its base, it's almost a deconstruction of the Dungeons and Dragons games I love. There's no big adventure theme or stopping some big bad guy. Your characters are nameless thieving miscreants of a faction who are solely in it for the money. And at its
True.
at its base, it's probably got its best analog in, say, Carcassonne. In a dungeon, you're laying dungeon tiles and you're trying to complete rooms and place your characters in rooms so that you can gain all the treasures for yourself. But the comparison stops when the room completes. If there are multiple characters in a room, they roll dice to duke it out and see who gets the most gold out of the room. If you're the only faction in the room, then you get to draw a card with a little scene and get to react to it, sometimes to your benefit, sometimes to your detriment. Just that little add-on changes Delve from something more blah of a game to something I will happily join in 10 times out of 10. The art is cute and it has everything from snooty looking elves to goblins that look like they would happily headbutt the other factions into submission. The
They're
story...
kobolds.
Are they kobolds?
They're kobolds.
Okay. Let me change that then. From snooty looking elves to kobolds that look like they will happily headbutt the other factions into submission. The story cards are awesome, and they have just enough what the heck to give you laugh out loud moments that you remember long after you've bagged and boxed and shelved the game after playing. It's absolutely wonderful game with only a little fiddliness. It scales well. It has a nice end game mechanic based on the number of tiles you've placed. And the game only gets a 6.5 on BGG, so I'm not the only one who obviously underestimated it. This game is awesome. So
this is one we've never played.
That is
we haven't
Delve.
played this.
It is awesome.
In fact, I don't think I'd ever even heard of it till it showed up on Jessica's top 10 a couple episodes ago.
Yes.
Yep.
It is wonderful. Yeah, I guess those
Maybe
are
put
kobolds.
that on the list of games we
They
still
are.
need to play
Well,
with
on
you
my
guys.
top 10 list, I called them goblins.
Oh, okay.
And then I realized my
Nope.
mistake afterwards. So
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one we'll have to get together. We'll have to get together and play and see if maybe even it's available for like a playthrough, because it's actually a fun game. Now with 4 people, I'm curious how much it's going to stretch out, because your mechanic for end game is certain tiles have got suns on them, and each time you place one of those tiles, your sun marker goes up. So you actually, to some degree, can control when you end game too. So we'll take a look at it at some point, I'm sure.
Yep.
All right, and number 5. Professor Evil in the Citadel of Time. Okay, all gameplay aside, look at this title. Look at it, I tell you! How did a game with a title like Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time somehow not become the #1 game on Board Game Geek? Seriously, this game box could contain scattered masses of driveway rocks and plastic wire connectors, and it should be at least rated an 8. Just for that title. But no, BGG has it at the stunning rating of 6.7, and ladies and gentlemen, that is an absolute travesty. So full disclosure here.
Maybe it should have been Dr. Evil.
No, that's Professor Evil.
But if it had Dr. Evil, it might have gotten a higher rating.
If he was Dr. Evil, then he wouldn't be teaching other people to be evil. He's a professor. He's obviously teaching other people to be evil. So full disclosure here, when we got this game, our local game store had a selection of buy one, get one free specials that led to inevitably to us shelling out something like our entire mortgage payment on games just so we could get the 2 for the price of 1 several times over. And out of all of those, Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time probably shined the most. You are an agent being tasked with breaking into the aforementioned Professor Evil's mansion to retrieve items that he's stolen from throughout history before it's too late. Seriously, listen to me talk about this. How can you not love this game? And by the way,
I haven't played it.
He has guarded each with a series of locked doors, cameras, and elaborate traps. And yes, you have, Greg. You have played this. The players work cooperatively, moving their characters from room to room, disengaging nefarious traps and security measures, and unlocking the doors to try to take the treasure. All the while, Professor Evil moves with this really slick dice mechanic where you roll 2 dice, one with colors and one with symbols, telling you what direction he moves through the rooms based on little colored rugs. Or if he goes into secret entrances. And either way he goes, he turns back on any security you've disengaged, and he's locked any doors you've unlocked. Or if he utilizes the secret passages, or if he just stays where he is and causes time to pass. Admittedly, the game can take a little longer. We've noticed this before. It takes a little bit longer than like your 60-minute time, because you'll be right on the edge of getting this thing complete, and Professor Evil will roll badly and walk through your area, and now you've got to re-unlock everything, which may take 2 players. But the game is so awesome, and it has this wonderful pulpish theme, and it deserves so much better than it gets. And it has a title called Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time. Oh my gosh, how can you not like this? But apparently everybody on BGG doesn't. So that...
Well, I've never even seen the box, let alone played it. So
you have both played it.
Mark,
When?
they've never played it with us.
No.
Are you kidding me?
Never even seen that box.
No.
I was sure that the 2 of you came over to our house and played this game with us.
Nope.
Nope.
Not us.
Was it Daniel and Rachel?
Maybe. That's a possibility.
Okay.
Yeah, it was not us.
I could have sworn.
He's just feeling the moment so much.
I am feeling the moment.
I guess.
Okay, well then...
I was trying to listen to your explanation of it, and I was like going, have I played a game something like it? But no.
You haven't... I can't believe that. You haven't played this. This game is awesome. This game is all kinds of awesome. Seriously.
Okay, we'll put that on the list. We'll
put it on the list. We'll put it on the list. And that's Mark's 5 things for this episode. Seriously, you've never played this?